Hello and welcome to everyone. Thank you for joining us for another Thursday lunchtime session on today's topic, how technology is changing the commercial property industry. I appreciate that you're all extremely busy and some of you having joined from Sydney, so I hope you're safe down there. But first, I'd like to introduce our guest for today, Luke Borg. Luke is a senior project manager within the Savills project management team here in Queensland, Brisbane. Having successfully managed the delivery of projects across various asset classes for public, private, and non-profit clients, Luke has led a range of projects from acquisition through to completion. Luke's sound understanding of the property market, property development process, and construction management principles has enabled him to maximize the value of commercial outcomes on projects that he's led. He possesses over 13 years of experience in the construction and property industry, underpinned by qualifications in the construction management, property development, and finance. So welcome, Luke. Quite the introduction there.
Thanks for the quality introduction, mate. Appreciate it.
No worries. So look, I thought we'd kick off today by getting some insight into some of the significant changes that you've seen in the industry over the past sort of, let's say, 5 years.
So for me and what I've seen in the industry, the two big things I'm seeing is the internalizing of resources. So a lot of asset owners, developers are internalizing resources, whether it be individuals or technology. So seeing that happening quite a fair bit. And the other one is also owners and developers really embracing mixed use. So we're seeing particular retail owners who are now looking at repurposing assets to introduce some kind of industrial, even residential. So it's going to be a big space moving in the future.
Nice. I mean, I guess in the development world, with so many stakeholders and so many moving parts throughout a development, in your experience, what are some of the most significant pain points throughout that process?
With that, I know a lot of people say communication, and it is a big pain point. But one particular point I'd like to highlight is actually identifying key decision makers and also enabling them to make key decisions. So one thing we're finding that individuals within certain organizations might actually not be the right individual to make that decision, whether it needs to go to a higher level. So a critical thing we're finding is establishing up front and trying to find exactly who within certain organizations have the remit to make certain decisions to enable projects to move forward.
Gotcha. I mean, yeah, I think communication is key to every project. And again, I think with so many stakeholders, it's always good to have everyone looking at working off the same sheet, if you will. So, I mean, how have you looked to technology to overcome some of these pain points?
I think a lot of that has been getting the right information in front of the right individuals. So, for example, on certain projects, we'll make sure we create a governance structure or what we call a delegation of authority matrix. So that will then establish who within certain teams has the ability to make decisions on certain project tasks or components. And from there, it's making sure that they get the right information. So your typical things like everyone uses Outlook and email, but then file sharing software like Aconex and Dropbox is obviously quite critical. And so a big thing for us is making sure that those individuals who have been identified as making those decisions are enabled, provide the right information to ensure that they can make the right decisions and also make decisions quickly. So I mean, for us, it's merely looking at what are the various software applications out there that ensures that individuals can get all information and also quickly as well.
Yeah, as you say, I think supporting individuals with technology, not trying to replace them with technology, is the key here. Giving them the source of truth. Yeah, giving them the source of truth in terms of the numbers, what's behind the numbers, or whatever it is that key piece of information may be. So without giving too much away, can you sort of let us know of some case studies? Like, I mean, at the moment, for example, I know the Brisbane office is trialing Aprao across 5 or 6 of its teams. Is that using that as an example, or any others that you sort of have used?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to use that as an example. So I know across our various teams, the project management, tenant advisory, valuations, and also capital transactions, we have a lot of individuals using the Aprao software. And what we're finding is it enables us to get the right information in front of our clients, but also assist them in making the right decisions, also assist them actually producing the right information. So with the software in place, it enables our teams to input certain data within their feasibilities to ensure that they're getting the right information, also their feasibilities work correctly. And what we're seeing, which is great, is it's a software that, it's on the cloud. It enables individuals to jump in. It's not one of those, old school, whether it's State Master or Excel, and you're constantly updating revisions, and also constantly sending files via email. It's something that's always there, always present online. And then if you wanted to, you can obviously download the information. And the good thing we're finding about that is also that information can also be spread or shared by the client to banks and other lenders and other parties quite easily. And then it's a matter of then providing an access point to then obtaining the information. So it's a great piece that we're obviously trialing within the team and wanting to move across various departments to show them that it's something that can help their clients, produce the right feasibilities to then enable actual projects to go ahead, because feasibilities are quite critical. And then if things don't stack up, or if the wrong information is in there, you don't want the project to start with the incorrect information. And also at the same time, you want to make sure project starts. You want to make sure the feasibilities are correct and locked in.
Yeah, as you say, and just touching on Aprao, it's got that team functionality. And I think a lot of technology coming into the market, and I think there's a lot of developers and project managers, service providers, wherever it may be, that are really sort of interested in this sort of that emerging technology space, and understand now that it's probably a big part, whether it's the digitization, whether it's just the innovation coming in. It's not robots laying bricks. Like that's not what we're sort of talking about here. It definitely is on the software and the management and the communication side, where we see those big sort of pain points. And yeah, I think with any of that innovation and technology coming through, it's important that there's that aspect of team, so team sharing, team collaboration, and that team can be client and whoever it may be. But yeah, that's something we're focused on a lot at Aprao, and making sure that communication and working off that same source of truth and that same thing in the cloud is a priority. So I mean, Savills, obviously a massive global firm. For those that are either project managers themselves that are a bit smaller, or competitors that are on the line, and or technology companies. I mean, what does that procurement cycle look like when you guys are searching and piloting and rolling out new solutions?
We find that a lot of it does come down to individuals within their team. So individuals will come across a project or work with a client to find a pain point, and it's one of those things where, I mean, unfortunately, a lot of the time it's just searching on Google to find tech companies, but we're seeing more and more there are now these foundations or organizations who are collating prop tech or tech companies and creating a bit of a directory or database for individuals to access. So a great example is actually PropTech Brisbane, who are working with a lot of prop techs within Brisbane to, let's say, create a database that individuals in the industry can access and then help find tech or find companies that can assist in the pain points that have been identified. So the step would be go Google, or if you're fortunate enough to have these committees in your city or country, go to them. They can direct you or lead you to finding a prop tech or a tech company to, let's say, alleviate the pain or close at the pain point. And then from there, it's working with those tech companies. So I think a lot of them are open to trials, like Aprao, which is great. And it's one of the things where the key for us is really defining the problem and then working with the prop tech to actually, fortunately, I think a lot of them are still in those early days, so they can actually try and adjust their software to meet your particular requirements or satisfy your current problem. And it's both being open. So it's the companies setting out objectives, work with them to say, here's our pain points, here's what we need to close out. Can your software do this? Yes or no? It's being upfront and honest. I mean, if it can't, it can't. Then we can always find another solution. Or if it can't, then what's the opportunity to actually adjust the software to meet those requirements? And then through that trial period, whether it be 2, 3, or 4 weeks, it's the constant reporting between not just the company and the tech, the prop tech, but it's also the individual in that company to the higher ups. Because in the end, after the trial, you want to make sure that the actual software then, if it does satisfy their pain point, which is great, then actually gets rolled out. So I think a critical piece there is not just the conversations and the reporting from the actual individual to the prop tech or the tech company. It's also that individual to the higher ups, whether it be state managers or CEOs or CTOs, to make sure that they understand what's happening, they understand the actual benefits, and then from there, hopefully create an engagement, actually rolling the software out. What we're finding is, from what I found in my experience, there'll be that trial, but then what happens is the higher ups actually have no idea what's going on. They haven't been informed properly, and then also they're not brought on the journey. So I think critical piece there is to then bring them on the journey, to then enable them to actually have that sign off to say, yep, let's roll this thing out.
Yeah, I think you nailed it there. The three sort of key steps into that searching, the implementation, and all that trial, and then the operation, the ongoing of said piece of technology or whatever it may be. And you touched on there, PropTech Brisbane, a great association that's sort of obviously based around Southeast Queensland. But for others on the line, like some other great sort of key organizations that really do distill the best in the market, especially around the sort of the property and the development or construction sides of things, is Toronto Ventures and their Real Tech X program based out of Sydney. They do a great job and again, purely focused on that. So these guys, both organizations, have the visibility of sort of hundreds, if not thousands of prop techs that then they're sort of picking and in some cases investing in, which should give you a certain amount of confidence and rolling forward and looking for those industry engagements. You're sort of getting them involved in that piloting stage is key. And I think that for, as I'm finding, with Savills at the moment through Aprao, but also, for several others that I've worked with in the past, it's if you're an early adopter, you really do have the power to help shape that company, right? So if you get on early, you can tell them what you need, what you want, and essentially outsource your sort of software development team in some respects, because early stage companies are going to build something that, if there's a big customer, they're asking for it, they're going to build it. It's that product market fit that's so important. And then the last one, operationally, right? Like again, coming up with a plan, or whether it's if you're on the buy side in terms of Savills, like understanding that you want this, if it is a good solution, to then become operational and get invested in from the company, and also from, I guess, the prop tech side as well. It's like, what does that plan look like? How does this go on? How does this get past a 2-week trial? So, mate, next question.
There's one thing I want to add to that as well. Sorry, mate. Your in terms of other, I guess, areas to help find these tech companies, is what I found was there's a lot of these co-working spaces. I mean, one that comes to mind is a Stone and Chalk in Sydney, or whatever they're called. There's a few of those around, and they've been in all major cities. A lot of those, go on their websites, they have events, they host a lot of events that enable startups and tech to present. And I think those are great events for individuals to go to because whilst they're open in terms of tech, they're not quite distinct to prop tech. A lot of the tech that they do or produce can be applied to a number of tasks within the industry. So I think getting to those, going to the websites, understand what events are coming up, and also attending those events to get in front of those tech companies is a great way to find them.
Yeah, absolutely. And investors as well, right? Like, I guess the majority of the people on the call today are sort of in their senior management positions, and there are investment nights for seed or Series A rounds. And I know we're getting a little bit off topic, but what happens then is a bunch of startups or prop techs will line up and pitch. They're asking for money at the end of the day, but it does give you an opportunity to understand what they're doing. And if you're really sort of invested in and across some of the key pain points, and you find the perfect solution, not only should you obviously buy it and pay for it to implement that in your business, but maybe you throw an investment there as well. But I mean, in talking about that and seeing all these different prop techs come across, is there any other companies, prop tech companies in Australia that you think can add value? Are there any that you can sort of share with the audience they should be keeping an eye on?
So a few that I've come across, which I think are great. There's one called Space Platform. They're a Brisbane-based prop tech as well. So they provide real-time data analytics in terms of spaces. So I think they're great. There's another company called Exogenics. They're more back-end. So they provide data insights into the running of particularly mechanical plant, and then helping individuals or asset owners try and actually find efficient ways to run the plant and also bring down costs. Another one is a Sydney-based company called Veil Digital. So they're more in the construction context space, and they help track supplies to sites, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so many more out there. For those that think you have a pain point, I can almost guarantee you there's probably a prop tech out there trying to create a solution for that. It's just about
Oh,
searching
definitely
and being
agree.
involved in the right, ecosystem. So again, your Stone and Chalks and all the other sort of associations we just mentioned are a good place to start. Reach out to them and then let them do all the work for you, right? Say, this is my problem. Have you got a solution? And watch the answers come flooding back.
Yeah,
So look, if we
definitely agree
follow
there.
some of these, trends, sort of 5 years into the future, right? Like, so what do you think we'll see from an innovation perspective? What will that sort of, and I hate using the phrase, new normal of the property sort of professional look like?
I think a big thing will be real-time data. So what we're finding in the space is a lot of information can take a bit of time to come through. So these tech companies are coming through, for example, Veil, where you can track exactly where your Rio is. I mean, it's the ability to understand where things are, whether it's your asset in terms of cooling or whether it's on a construction site, understanding where your supplier is. Real-time data they can access immediately to then inform or help you make decisions. Like, for example, let's say it's an apartment building and your client calls and says, I've got a sales contract, but the potential purchaser wants to change the timber floors to tiles. I mean, that process can actually take you hours. The amount of phone calls from the client to the project manager to the contractor's project manager, them to their foreman, to their CA, to then call the subbies then call their suppliers, and then obviously if they also go on site to see where actual things are in place. I mean, whereas your client saying, I need to know right now, otherwise I've lost my sale, which, I mean, and you tell your client, I just can't answer that right now because I need to make all these phone calls. All these phone calls need to be made. Whereas if you had software or tech, I've mentioned IoT, but you have tech in place that enables you to understand, okay, you can see right on site right now, the bedding's not down yet, therefore that change can happen. You can find out right now, okay, are the tiles on site? Are they still in the factory? Is a timber supply on site? Can you order more timber? Has it been actually installed? I mean, all that information right now, if that was all available immediately to the client to say, yep, we know where everything is right now, and they can do that without even making a phone call. They can just simply log into some platform that provides all that data. I think that's where I see things are going, and I think there's a lot of tech right now that is working in that direction. And then, for example, previous example was space platform. I mean, that's a great piece of tech that tells you exactly right now how many people are in your space and how your space is being used. So an example they have, which I think is great in terms of, you can tell right now in terms of a shopping mall exactly where individuals are moving. At the same time, the way they've done it, the privacy the privacy, there's no privacy. Well, I won't say they've done quite well in terms of protecting people's privacy by tracking more actual hardware movements as opposed to particular individuals. So I think that's where I see things moving to. And I think, fortunately, a lot of the tech that's coming through right now will be supporting that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think your example there, that's just the switching out the tiles to timber floors, seems quite simple in the service. And for those that aren't in the profession, I think it's quite simple, but obviously there's a huge long tail to that in terms of making that or implementing that. And then your solution in terms of real-time data is absolutely spot on, and that's where I think the technology will be. But you can't just one day not have it, the next day think you're going to have all the gadgets and away you go. It's kind of this gradual process. There's trial and error on I guess using Savills as an example, Savills side, on the startup technology side, to get there. Because again, if you don't have a laptop, you can't use email, kind of thing. Like, you need to have that sort of infrastructure in place and that understanding of the tech to utilize it when it is here, and call it 5 years time.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
Luke, I mean, you've worked for boutique developers, now for one of the largest property service companies worldwide. I guess the final thought on why you think innovation or that constant search for improvement is so important.
I mean, for my view is, it's critical because what it does is it creates value for clients and also as well as yourselves. I mean, innovation, improvement, a lot of that leads to efficiencies, which leads to money saved, which leads to profits. I mean, as a service provider ourselves, if we can innovate, if we can look to refine services to bring fees down for our clients, it's a big win for them. They'll obviously potentially the project will go ahead, if fees are brought down, and back of that, obviously, we'll potentially win more work. So I think, money is always seemed to be a bad term, but that's the truth of it. If things don't work financially, things won't happen. So a lot of innovation improvement will lead to that. And a big thing is also it will lead to less wastage. So an example that's, let's say, Savills, for example, if you can track how much supply is on site, and you can also potentially track wastage, and then all that data that gets collected, you can then refine how much you order. And a big thing for there is also the environment. I think by improving and creating more efficient systems, you can lead to less wastage, which will lead to a better environment for everyone.
Yeah, mate, I love that at the end there, that sort of environmental part, or I'm sure a lot of people are aware of this, so the ESG impacts at the moment, and sort of that being really driven by policymakers. We've seen in Sydney by 2026, all commercial designs have to have a neighbours rating of, so I think it's 5.5 and above. So like it's being pushed through policy. And so to get there and be able to make those changes in a cost-effective manner, you're going to have to implement some sort of technology and innovation to really push it. And the money thing as well. Like at the end of the day, ESG or sustainability is about cutting wastage and stuff like that, and sort of using things more efficiently, which comes out at a better financial position. So they are aligned, I guess. For a long time, I guess they're at odds with each other in terms of sustainability versus the bottom line. But I think that's becoming more and more aligned as we get closer to some of these I guess Paris Agreement goals and SDGs and whatnot. So I'll just throw it to the audience. I've been keeping an eye on the Q&A. If you do have anything, please throw it in there at the moment. But as I guess one of the final questions, unless we get anything from the audience, Luke, I mean, what's the best way for today's audience to get in touch with you if they want to sort of chat more or engage you?
Yeah, so I mean, my email is just lborg, lborg at savills.com.au. Obviously, also happy for yourself, Julian, to share my details with the individuals online today. Always happy to have a chat, especially when it comes to tech. I mean, quite getting more and more involved in the space because it is quite fascinating. It's also one of the things where I'm finding that if you don't get involved, you're going to be left behind. I mean, the way things are moving, client demands are, they want more efficient ways of doing things. And, as a service provider, you need to find ways to provide that to your clients.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, you can, as Luke said, reach out to him an email. I'm sure LinkedIn's probably another avenue there.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course. Using tech to its advantage. So, all right. Doesn't seem like we've got any questions from the audience. So thank you everyone for your time. And Luke, thank you very much for joining us today. I hope today was insightful for those of you that joined on how technology is changing the commercial property development industry. So we are going to be bringing together some more leaders from within the development ecosystem. Some upcoming ones are from RICS, BDO, and UDIA. So please do join us for those as well. And if you have anyone that you'd like to try us to chat to, please let me know. But until next time, take care and thank you very much.